I probably should have seen it coming that I was going to end up working more pop culture adaptations into my series, The Trismegistus Academy, because while writing the second episode of the tournament arc, which should really be called the Death Arena arc, given the Maverick students are trying to survive one of Eloise Ludum's death arenas, I ended up turning a bunch of Eloise Ludum's monsters, the laughing Luduls that are in the arena, into variants of various pop culture characters and creatures that I like, though there isn't really a theme to this episode. We've got a Marvel villain, a DC villain, a Pokemon, but I felt like they fit very nicely into today's story. So let's get into it, shall we? Let's go.
Hit like if you want, subscribe if you feel like, but either way, enjoy the show.
Previously on the Trismegistus Academy, the Maverick class entered Eloise Ludum's dimension along with their own headmistress, Evangeline Trismegistus, and their upper year mentors, thinking they were about to compete in a scheduled bracketed combat tournament against the Ludum Academy for Fearsome Fighter students. There would be a competition between the Mavericks and the top 7 students of the LAFF, but not in the way they'd thought. Ludum had secretly been planning another of her death arenas, like what she used to run for Overseers before Dresden Oakland wiped most of them out. Now she has invited many of the remaining Overseers, allowed her other students to watch, and even invited 3 of the treacherous Archon demons to watch the show, under the condition that if they are sufficiently entertained, they will leave her dimension alone on their tirade destroying the multiverse. The students competing have all been split up into different arenas. Alsaya was placed in a blackened forested arena with a bubbling purple river running around and through it, along with fellow student Kiko Tsukino and 2 LAFF kids, Shinobu Kohaku and Asphage. There are also laughing Luduls all around the arena, though they haven't seen them yet. In order to move on to the next stage of this competition and face the final boss, students have to get 27 points, which are acquired by killing Luduls or killing students from the opposite class. The Tahe kids may not be willing to kill LAFF students, but the fearsome fighters might not feel the same. Let's see if the Mavericks can find a way to get through these games and still manage to complete their plan to take down Ludum in the next chapter of the Trismegistus Academy. Alsaya leered up at Ludum, floating in the distance far above with the 3 Archons. Alsaya could feel her anger and hatred bubbling to the surface even more now that she and her friends were definitely in a life-threatening situation. She didn't want Ludum to know that her anger was stewing up, but she remembered what Evangeline had said. Use whatever you have as fuel. Another wave of eerie laughter rolled out of the forest, followed by a sound like something drilling into the ground. Alsaya knew a laughing Ludul would be rearing its mangled teeth soon. She quickly called across the field to the LAFF kids. Kohaku, Asphage, you guys can't seriously be cool with this, right? I bet Ludum didn't warn you that she was making you fight to the death. Asphage started wandering towards her and Kiko. She didn't, but it doesn't matter. I gave up on Ludum keeping her word a long time ago, but as long as she keeps me fed, then who cares? If this is where I get my next meal, that's fine with me. I just have to eat you before a Ludul does. He instantly went from a slow walk to leaping forward. 3 tendrils stretched out from his skin and whipped towards Alsaya. She tapped her foot twice and darted out of the way. Kiko sprang up and flipped backwards away from the coming threat, but the second Asphage's feet hit the ground, he sprang forward again, this time towards Kiko, ready to snatch her in his tendrils as she landed. A spontaneous image came into Alsaya's mind of all her rage at Ludum churning like a red, glowing energy inside her. She pictured all of it shifting down into her legs to charge her up as she exploded forward, kicking up dirt and sprinting right towards Asphage. She smashed her fist against his head, knocking him over and making him miss Kiko with his tendrils. Alsaya skidded to a stop past him, but just as she did, the ground beneath her gave out, and a grinning, cackling maw sprang up beneath her, nearly chomping into her legs. She thankfully scrambled back out of the way as a giant centipede-like Ludul burst out of the ground to loom over her. 4 plumes of smoke sprung from its face in a constant stream, like a blackened X across its head. She recognized it as the Centiskorch Apendra. It swung its head down towards her, but before it got close, Kohaku shot through the air and smashed her kanabo into the Ludul's head, sending it swinging away from Alsaya. Alsaya then snatched 2 of the creature's many little needle-like legs and tore them off. She spun them around, about to stab them into the creature's side. But before she could, a bolt of lightning surged towards her, and she just barely managed to dart back out of its path. She whipped around to see Kohaku, with her hands sparking, leaping in and smashing the creature's side with her weapon again, then landing near Alsaya. Back off, Limani. I'm not going to let Ludum force me to murder you Tahe kids, but I am getting all the points I need as fast as I can so I can get out of here and tear the heads off those Archons. Avenging my world is why I came to this psychotic school in the first place. Psycho Perdilict's voice was amplified into their arena as he chuckled.
Oh, you hear that? Some of these kiddos might be coming for us. This could be a more immersive show than we thought.
Alsaya glanced back to make sure Kiko was okay. Asphage was still going for her, but she was managing to evade and weave around every swipe of his stretching limbs and tendrils. I really think you should reconsider this, Kiko said, surprisingly cheerfully. Rabbit stew is a super overrated dish. Alsaya wanted to help her, but first turned back to Kohaku. The Ludul had burrowed all the way out of the ground, so its tail, with a pincer at its end, could lash towards Kohaku, as she smashed her weapon into its side once again and shot a beam of flames from her mouth at it. The fire wasn't very effective. The creature almost seemed to enjoy it. The pincer was nearly on her. Alsaya sprinted towards the coming claw, leapt off the ground, and tackled it aside, so it missed its target. Kohaku saw Alsaya darting behind her and swung her kanabo. Alsaya just barely ducked under it. Hey, watch it! I'm just trying to help! Besides, you know that if you get all your points, the only way you can win this is by killing our headmistress, right? If you don't want to kill us, how are you going to deal with that? Kohaku snarled. I don't like killing someone who has not proven to deserve it, but if taking one life is the cost of getting me a shot at the monsters who are set on wiping out trillions of lives, then so be it. Kohaku sprang into the air and fired a bolt of lightning from her hands right into the Ludul's mouth. Its whole body froze in place, twitching and writhing, as she whipped her body around in a full circle and smashed her weapon into the creature's head, sending it crashing right into the dirt. It wasn't dead, but Kohaku was proving fully capable of taking this thing out. And Alsaya wasn't sure she should let her. Alsaya trusted that Evangeline could hold her own against some random LAFF kids when she was uninhibited, but Alsaya didn't know how much the magic-suppressing field Eloise had trapped Trismegistus in was limiting her powers. Maybe a student as tough as Kohaku would be a threat to her life. Unfortunately, before Alsaya could have much internal debate about what to do, she felt the ground quaking. She looked down, thinking it may be another little Scorchapendra about to burst up. But then, her eyes caught a burly brute charging right towards her. Smashing over a tree like it was nothing on its path to her, came a towering, muscle-bound dark crimson Ludul with no neck, whose head was rounded and built into its upper chest and shoulders. Alsaya had thought the Scorchapendra was bad, but the Luduls was next level. It was astoundingly fast for its size, but at least it wasn't as fast as her. She let it get close, then charged towards Asphage, letting the Luduls follow her close behind. Kiko and Asphage had gotten a fair way away. Alsaya had to bound over one of the bubbling purple streams, and as she did, a foul smell that almost made her woozy filled her nostrils. The charging Ludul just stomped right through it, letting its legs get soaked in the slime. Kiko noticed Alsaya coming up behind Asphage. She then let one of his tendrils clip her leg and make her fall to the ground, as if he'd gotten the better of her. So hungry. It's been so long since I fed. He lunged towards Kiko on the ground, teeth first. Too distracted by her being down to notice the beast charging up behind him. Kiko whipped her body around, raised her large feet, and used them to catch Asphage, halting him in midair. Sorry, buddy, but we Mavericks get back up, and we get back up fast. She sprang her feet out, both kicking herself up and hurling Asphage right towards Alsaya and the stampeding Ludul. Alsaya dropped and skidded under him. Asphage tried to lash a tendril to the ground to pull himself off course, but he was too slow, and the Ludul smashed the full weight of its towering body against him. Asphage let out a pained gasp, then fell to the ground in front of the brute, who then stomped on him while running after Alsaya. Alsaya and Kiko both heard Asphage still groaning and trying to get up. In spite of his unfortunate appetite, they were both glad that hadn't killed him. Kiko and Alsaya split off in different directions, but the Ludul then started following Kiko. She sprang up into a nearby tree, but the brute immediately tore through it like it was a cobweb. Kiko started to fall towards the brute. Alsaya darted back towards the creature and ran right in front of it, taking its attention off Kiko. It started following her again. Alsaya didn't know what to do with it, but as long as it wasn't threatening Kiko, she was fine. Ludum's voice suddenly echoed through the arena. Ah, look at Alsaya working so hard to protect her fellow Mavericks. I'll admit I'm quite surprised that you're still willing to work with them, given an unfortunate ally that 3 of them have on their fancy little team of super miscreants. Or haven't you heard who Jake, Anna, and that vile little Niseko are all chummy with, Alsaya felt fury churning in her gut again. Ludum was clearly trying to make her angry. Alsaya hated that it was working, but then, once again, pictured that anger getting fueled into her legs. Running suddenly got easier, and Alsaya became more aware of the ground before her, catching every ridge and bump perfectly to maintain the best footing possible. She ignored Ludum, and the cruel headmistress went on. Do you know? It seems to me if you did, you'd never work with the Maverick class again. What would your poor dead sister think if she knew you were all buddied up with the kids who themselves are friends with the man who killed her? Have they not yet introduced you to Professor Dresden Oakland? Alsaya realized that Ludum clearly thought she hadn't been told yet about Dresden and what he'd done. She was probably hoping this would be a big bombshell that would shake Alsaya's confidence and trust in her class. It made Alsaya angry that Ludum was trying to make her mad, but it was also kind of funny. Still running from the little knot, Alsaya smirked instinctively, realizing Ludum wouldn't get the reaction she was after. Alsaya led the little knot right back to Kohaku and the Scorchapendra, which was nearly defeated. Ludum continued slightly more aggressively. Is that a grin? Does it make you glad to know you're working with the allies of your sister's killer? Did you not come to my school in the first place to avenge her? How disappointed she would be to see you now. Without even thinking, Alsaya just burst out laughing. The Scorchapendra was flopped down on the ground, with Kohaku now using her claws to tear at its neck. She glanced back, hearing Alsaya's laughter, to see Alsaya leap over and run past the Scorchapendra. The little knot then stomped right onto the monster's body and flattened part of it so forcefully that its stomach burst and it split in two. Alsaya figured that had killed it, but couldn't turn back to make sure. Alsaya kept running and chuckling to herself. Ludum was starting to grow furious. What is so funny about you helping your sister's killer? Did you know? Did you know Dresden Oakland slew your sister in cold blood, like he did so many other overseers? Are you proud to be working with a group that condones the slaughter of thousands and thousands of people? Delilah would be disgusted with who you've become. Alsaya couldn't control it. She started laughing so hard it almost forced her to stop running. Ludum shrieked. What is so funny, you miserable little wretch? You're what? Thousands of years old? I'm a 15-year-old kid and you're trying so hard and failing so hard to make me freak out. After thousands of years, is this really the best thing you can think of to do with your time? How do you not get how pathetic that is? Grow up, Eloise. A growling, heavy breath rolled out of Ludum's throat. Pathetic? Pathetic? You are the pathetic one, and you will not leave this arena alive! New rule! Her voice went from echoing just inside Alsaya and Kiko's arena to all of them. Anyone who kills the maverick whelp Alsaya Lamani will immediately be
Whoa there. No changing the rules mid-game just because the kid got you in a tizzy, Ludum.
Psychoperdalic chuckled, clearly enjoying how riled up Alsaya had gotten Eloise. I can do whatever I please, Archon. You are here to observe. These are my games and this is my universe.
And your universe is in our multiverse, games miser. Don't you forget it.
Alsaya suddenly got an idea. Why did you bring the Archons here anyway, Ludum? Did you really need to make some kind of deal with them? Jake's friend Sterling told us how you said you were tougher than them anyway. Alsaya was hoping she could get the Archons to turn on Ludum, but Psychoperdalic replied before Ludum could.
Nah, clever kid trying to turn us against Ludum, but we already know she's a profoundly arrogant maniac. It's something we occasionally enjoy about her, but we still want to see this game shake out, so do us a favor and focus on what's going on in your little arena, and not what's happening up here.
Alsaya had sprinted into the tree line and was dodging and weaving through the brush. She thought a bunch of trees might at least slow this thing down a bit, but no luck. It was slowing her down more than the monster. This thing was unstoppable. Ludum had said the Luduls ranged from being worth 1 point to 3 points based on how tough they were. Taking this thing out would seriously only be worth a maximum 3 points? Alsaya sprinted back out of the trees, and in spite of the challenge, she was still chuckling to herself a bit about how furious she'd managed to get Ludum by basically just ignoring her. A tree was suddenly hurled right over Alsaya's head and slammed to the ground in front of her. Her first instinct was to leap over it, so she tried that, but some of the branches stuck up so high that she crashed into them and spiraled through the air. She crashed to the ground on the other side of the tree, flopping down right next to one of the foul, bubbling streams. The creature stomped right through the downed tree and was going to be on Alsaya in seconds. Thankfully, Kohaku burst from across the field and smashed her kanabo right into the Ludul's knee. It bent its leg to the side enough to make the little knot lose its footing and faceplant. Alsaya scrambled out of its path as it rolled into the purple stream. Some of the slime splashed onto Alsaya's cheek. It sizzled against her flesh and she wiped it away quickly. A burning sensation remained, but it wasn't too bad. Unfortunately, this Ludul didn't seem to be affected the same way. She backed away as the creature quickly started getting up, but Kohaku pointed her weapon right in Alsaya's face. "You made me lose my last kill, Lamani. You're not taking this one from me or my weapon will find your legs next." Before Psychoperdelict could stop her again, Ludum yelled, "Kohaku, if you kill Lamani, you will instantly be transported to freedom." Kohaku twirled her weapon and just glanced up at Ludum. "No, I agree with her. Your lack of honor is pretty pathetic."
What is this? Where am I? What is happening? Hey there, Ludum. You're just popping into the non-canonical advertisement realm to help good old Benny Shop sell some of the PopCross Library. I will not waste my time hawking someone else's products. Get me back to the arena. Ah, come on. It's sort of fun here. We get to do a bit of banter, sell some of the books. You could even advertise Mytholethal if you want, because, you get a brief mention in that story. There's lots of cool art in it, it's a fun read. I will do no such thing. I am an incredibly busy and important woman and you must send me back. Well, okay, how about if you advertise Vigilance? I mean, you did mention in your story recently that this was the universe you reincarnated from. This is a waste of my time and I demand to be sent back to my realm immediately. Okay, geez, really putting a damper on this whole ad section. I mean, it's fine, my heart's barely in this one myself, because I know a week from today we're gonna ramp up marketing the next book anyway. So you can go on and head back to your story, and I can get back to being on standby with the rest of the shop gang to whoop your butt, once the Maverick kids figure out how to get you to us. Excuse me? What is that supposed to mean? Don't worry about it, you're gonna forget I said that as soon as we get out of the non-canonical advertisement realm. Books are linked in the description, now back to the story. Wait, no, what did you mean about—
Alsaya let out another quick laugh as, dripping with purple goo, the little knot got up, grimly chuckling itself. Before it could start charging again, Kohaku smashed her weapon right across its domed head, making its whole body turn to one side, before she swiped the other way and smashed it back. With the little knot distracted, Alsaya turned back to Kiko. She was far across the field again, brawling with what Alsaya quickly recognized as a little Argila. This was a laughing Ludul basically made of amorphous clay that could be reshaped into different weapons. Kiko was both doing her best to avoid being struck by it, while also seemingly trying to help wounded Asphage get away from it too. This thing was another crazy tough Ludul, but at least Alsaya knew how to beat this one. She tapped her foot 3 times and her body began to buzz. She sprinted forward, keeping her eyes on the path ahead to avoid tripping. She yelled, "Kiko, it's got a fragile core body under all that clay. If we get it to spread out its clay enough, it'll expose its weak spot." Kiko nodded and sprang back as one of its arms, formed into a spiky mace, thrust towards her. Kiko landed and skipped playfully backwards, letting the ball keep getting closer, following her along. Kiko could see Alsaya was right. The creature's core body was getting leaner and smaller. Kiko skipped over a stream of purple slime and kept moving back, with the limb still chasing her. Alsaya got an idea. The little knot hadn't been affected by the burning purple slime, but maybe this one could be. She ran towards where the limb had reached over the stream. She snatched up the largest rock from the ground nearby, heaved it over her shoulder, then hurled it right into the slime under the stretching clay. The force of the rock made a plume of purple slime splash up onto the limb. It instantly started to burn and sizzle. The little Argila hissed angrily and tried to pull the limb back, but enough of the clay burned away that half of the arm fell off and collapsed to the ground. It started trying to slide back towards the Ludul, but it couldn't get past the purple bubbling stream. Alsaya then charged closer to its main body and got its attention. Its other arm formed into a large blade, and it thrust it towards her. She was ready to start leading that limb away too, but before she needed to, Asphage leapt up and bit into the arm, tearing a chunk of clay out of it, then chewing on it. He landed and swallowed the clay, then licked his teeth. It looks like mud, but tastes like flesh. He sprang up onto the stretching arm again and began tearing through it with his teeth. The monster lashed its other arm towards him to knock him away, but he just sprang off one arm onto the next one coming at him and continued chomping through the monster. The little Argila laughed in a pained and frightened laughter and clapped both its arms around Asphage's body. He was bound by the creature, but kept biting and swallowing chunks of its hands. The Ludul stretched its arms up and raised him high into the air. It seemed like it was about to throw him into another arena. But thankfully, it stretched its limbs up far enough that a skeletal torso with a beating blackened heart within became exposed. Alsaya shot forward and leapt right at it. She tackled against its chest and held onto it, making the beast stumble. She instantly felt its clay starting to pour back down to cover itself, but before it could, she punched her fist right through its ribs, grabbed its heart, and tore it out. Without another sound, the creature's body flopped to the ground, spilling its clay across the forest and letting Asphage fall back down. Alsaya looked up at the hologram scoreboard floating in the sky. Her score jumped up to 2. It was nice to get some points, but she'd hoped that would have been worth 3. Plus, she felt she should have more points still. Alsaya wasn't about to show Ludum that she was annoyed, but then, an unexpected ally spoke up for her. The largest of the Archons, Juggernaut, snarled.
Hey, why didn't you get points for that centipede thing?
Ludum replied, still teeming with fury. She did not kill it. My Ludul not stomped it to death. Psycho Paradolic chuckled.
Oh, come on, she lured that thing over to it to kill it, and you know it. Even stole a kill from that Shinobu kid. That's exactly the kind of treachery you live for, ain't it, Ludum?
Alsaya is not getting points for that kill. My decision, in my realm, in my death arena, is final. Psycho shook his head.
Nah, I'm gonna go ahead and veto that decision.
One of his tendrils stretched past Ludum's other side and tapped something on her control platform. Alsaya's score jumped up from 2 to 4. Ludum's bands stretched out of her back and raised her into the air, to be taller than Psycho. How dare you think you have any control over how my games play out, you outdated TV-headed freak!
Temper, headmistress, what kind of example are you setting for your kids here?
Psycho chuckled. Alsaya saw an opportunity to irk Ludum further and yelled up. Yeah, wow, you get angry really easily, Eloise. You know, someone like Evangeline could really help you with that. She's way smarter and more mature than you are. The sound that came out of Ludum next was somewhere between a shriek and a kettle boiling over. Alsaya laughed again and regrouped with Kiko. They could both hear the cackling of more Luduls in the woods around them, but at least Asphage was now preoccupied. He was ravenously devouring the fallen clay from the Ludul. Alsaya called over. Hey, Asphage, if we leave you with this food, will you stop coming after us Mavericks? Food, so much food. Kiko chuckled. I think we can take that as a yes. Maybe now we should find a way to get to one of the other arenas. If we can regroup with more of the Mavericks, maybe we can coordinate getting each of us to 27 points at the same time so we can all face the final boss together. Alsaya nodded. Right, we just have to find the secret pathway to the next arena over. There was suddenly a massive crashing sound. Alsaya and Kiko whipped around to see Kohaku had gotten onto the back of the Ludul and had ridden it through a wall. A huge hole had been smashed through it, leading into the next arena. Kiko shrugged. Found it? They both laughed and ran towards the opening, doing their best to trust that their friends were faring just as well in this competition so far. Alsaya couldn't help feeling a bit giddy at how easily she'd outraged Ludum. Ludum may technically have been a very physically powerful person, but seeing how a little laughter had gotten so far under her skin made Alsaya see Eloise as little more than an angry, petty woman. It wasn't even worth Alsaya's energy to hate her, and knowing that felt really good.
If you enjoyed this and you haven't seen the whole Trismegistus Academy series, you might want to go back to the beginning. I've got a playlist that you can watch in order. Or if you just want some more monsters, maybe check out my last episode of Spider-Man characters turned into fantasy beasts. But besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note. And the thought I want to leave people with is a quote I read this week from Tony Robbins, who said, "Information does not change your life. Decisions change your life. Winners take imperfect action while losers are still perfecting the plan. Action is the most important key to success." I don't love calling anyone losers, but I think the message is still good. Start taking action towards your goals sooner rather than later and learn well in the process of taking action. Because ultimately, experience from taking action will provide you with the best information. I hope that's inspiring. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Monday.